Hey, I'm Decathlon Gamer. Welcome back to PCM22. This is Dragons, and it's episode 33. We continue on with one of our final World Tour races of the year, but not the last. This is the Dynastia San Sebastian Classicoa. So, San Sebastian, it's a punchy classic, but at the same time, it can be a sprint classic. For us, the big key is going up against World Tour teams that have far better climbers and punchers than what we have. Therefore, the goal, the objective is I brought the climbers. I brought the guys that can almost match the others in the field, enough so to the point that hopefully we've got somebody left over the top of the final climb still in contact, but then ultimately none of our guys have the combination of that along with the sprint capability at the end to go for the win. So we are not looking for a victory. We are hoping to be in a small group at the end and do enough to get into the top 10 for this one. We go over the first climb of the day. The breakaway of 6 riders has already split up. One of those riders has been dropped and will likely be coming back to the peloton, though for the moment they are just about regaining some ground over the rest of the break. Originally it was 6 riders, and they've certainly made up ground, but will they properly get in contact once again? I don't know. But as for us, we are going to need to get water here very soon. This is not our A team. Our A team is at the Tour of Utah right now with one stage remaining, and that one we will also be bringing that to you today. I think that's close enough now to go ahead and head back and grab some water. Breakaway has split off a number of riders. Some of that has more to do, it's a lot less about pace and more to do with the fact that we are in this nasty weather, which is leading to an increase in the number of crashes. Now, usually my team tends to have a higher rate of crashes than equivalent to the rest of the field, or at least average. So far today we've lucked out. Speaking of so far today we've lucked out, it's nothing to write home about, but we actually have a positive net draw on what we have for today. Roughly, I'd say about a +4, which net-wise, I think that bumps us up actually a little bit to about a +6. Because the expected was a -2, as we had one rider with very low motivation. When you threw in the bad weather, it gave him a -2 on the expected. Everybody else was neutral zeros. So yeah, so far so good on that part. Front 6 do come back together, by the way, and they are holding at a 3-minute gap. We are also getting into this later phase of the race with things intensifying climb-wise. We've got 2 of the hardest climb, or probably what will be the 2 hardest climbs of the day in terms of length, in terms of how steep it is, and in terms of we're hitting a phase where we're starting to push harder. Except for so far, we're not. The front 6 have pulled out a bit of a gap over that first climb. Weren't they at 3 minutes at the base of that? Hamad, Tung, feeling it, but everybody else pretty good over the top on that one and already getting into recovery. We're now at 80k left to go. Let's push this up to an 80 so we hold our position a bit better on the next one. This one is shorter and yet covering the same amount of elevation change, so this is going to be quite steep. 6.6k, and that's even counting the after the climb part to the full peak, but average of 7.4%, but really it's a lot steeper. You can see we're at 10, we're now at 11, 13 we hit there a couple times briefly, so yes, quite steep. 15 for a fraction of a second there, nearly to the top. It's starting to ease off a little bit, so 15 is where it capped out, but a lot of that was pretty steady at that at a much higher level. Okay, Tung needs to go ahead and get dropped. I don't want him to be part of what we're about to do, which is going for water. So we're going to get him right out the back of the peloton. Put him on auto, and now somebody else can bother to get water. 9 of those riders split off just after. We're looking at Brandon Noah's tired. Hamad is too tired to continue. Brandon No is going to have to cover down on Ready. And then probably be the guy to go get the water. Oh, or not. Well, there you go. There's our first crash of the day, and he is out injured. Oh, man. Well, that's disappointing. Down to 98 here. Hamad is now going to have to take over the duties for going to get water one final time for us. But losing Brandon No to an injury, not devastating. He's not one of our top riders, and we certainly have some depth in our squad, but still not something you want to see. Peloton splits off, at least temporarily, making the water task for Hamad far, far easier. That will save some energy for him, and he is back in position. It's Reddy who is riding alone. Do I want Reddy covered off? He's a 76, 77 with 81 stamina. That definitely makes him a better option than Islamov, so we'll switch that up. And No has withdrawn. 2 climbs to go, 46k to go. The front 5, front 6 that is, have split off. Now 3 of them have been reeled in. The other 3 are down to a minute 22. They will easily be caught with the 2 climbs to come, plus the flat territory that we have remaining. 80 is not going to be hard enough for the climb to come. We'll set an 84. We'll go just shy of max mountain rating. But there is a big acceleration here, and I feel like we need to push actually a lot harder than we are. Otherwise, this group, I mean, are these guys all attacking, or is this literally just a massive, massive acceleration? It splits off in front of Hamilton, but we have 87 riders here to try to, make up the difference. Hamad is going backwards as he is out of energy. So he's a little deceiving to be the one that we are following. And again, our other domestique, Demo. So we're down to 3. And that's 21 chasing 7. The 7 just ahead of us. Now 20 chasing 7. And we get over the top of that climb with 24 guys not far behind a lead group of 7 and 1 final rider who is still off the front. I'm going to allow all 3 of them to recover on the descent, and then Islamov will cover off on our best climber, which is Lieberman. But what about the sprint? Ready. Islamov is the best sprinter of the bunch, so maybe with where we're at, it's Islamov we need to be protecting and not the other way around. Who's good on the flat? He's not good on the flat. Oh, come on. There was no sign of it. I'm going, what, ×2 speed there? I saw those guys. They didn't show that they were attacking. It just separated. Just very sudden separation from the group. And this is one of those where I don't think there's going to be a response. That's not much of a response, is it? Those guys are 33 seconds away. We are not the team with the firepower to try to pull that down, but there is a response. There's 3, 4, 5 riders chasing it down, and we regain contact. But yeah, that was disappointing to see those guys just suddenly have separation over the group. Final 2 riders off the front. Once they get reeled in, we're going to have an issue on our hands of who's the next to attack and who sits up, and you instantly see 3 more riders on the attack as we set ourselves up. Islamov, I don't think he's got enough. He's got a poor flat rating, but he's a better sprinter, and you can see he's now struggling with 14k to go. I think we are going to have to switch strategy, even though he is the best sprinter. Ultimately, he's the weakest rider here. And so we are going to ride for, well, you know what? We're almost there. We're almost to the climb. We're going to do this, and Islamov is going to lead us out and gel up now, because he's going to go up the climb as our leader and try to keep us in position and keep us in this thing. We're riding for Reddy and Lieberman simply because of their energy levels. And this is almost to the base, so Islamov starts sliding forward. Just gradually. We are riding defensively here, not not very offensively. This is more about survival and still being in contention. So Islamov going at a 93. This is the steepest portion right here, as Uchabrooks, the favorite, and Shockman, the other favorite, Islamov is done. Did not last as long as I thought he would there. So ready. Gets us over that first hump. It eases off. He's going to accelerate, and then we will try to regain contact with these guys. For a second we did, but Covey loses contact, and that caused us to once again lose contact. And now we go through the final one. Ready. Red bar, no red bar left, but we will give him what yellow bar he has remaining, as 2 riders are on the attack. We are now 3rd and 4th wheel with 7K to go. Ready's going to keep on pushing. We have separation. I want you to follow Van Mechelen. We have separation over the rest of the field. We are in position for a potential podium at this point. Wouldn't that be something? 20 seconds with 3 riders behind, and Lieberman, Gel, 4K to go. And Ready is still following. And as long as he's continuing to ride hard, we will continue to follow. And then Ready will attack at some phase. We've still got a chance at 2nd place as we are catching up to Little. But Ready is nearly done, and he is done. Van Mechelen is done. And so on to Lieberman. Lieberman into a podium position. Can he get 2nd? No. Uchabrooks, the favorite, takes the win. We're going to just about get there, but it's a podium with Bailey Little taking 2nd. I saw Bailey Little's profile as we were entering this race. Young rider, I believe a new gen of some kind, but early 20s. He's one of those 1st or 2nd year new gens who has now grown into one of those. He's got 80s. He's got like a 80 mountain, 81 punch, something like that. He's pretty good. But yeah, Lieberman grabs 3rd and Ready grabs 5th. So that is a huge coup for us in terms of World Tour points, Super Prestige points. That's not enough to do anything, as we didn't win in terms of an instant bump, but the points for the Israeli rider and for the Saudi rider, is that right? For both of those 2 riders, that is going to be a huge addition to their points pool for the overall year, which could improve the training structure of their individual nations. And with how Lieberman has already done so far this season, Israel could be due for a bump. Well, I just got blindsided by something I certainly shouldn't have been blindsided. I was not paying any attention whatsoever to the calendar and where we're at. It's the 31st of July. Today we are signing, and we haven't even finished our final day of Tour of Utah yet, but today it's contract signing for sponsor. Tomorrow it's contract signing. Period. Whew. Wow. Mega couple of days. But obviously that was a pretty big result. Let's already see what sort of impact that result may have had with Lieberman and Ready. And it's Kuwait. My bad. So Kuwait and Israel. Let's see where those 2 are now at. World Tour. I'm not worried about the individual World Tour rankings necessarily. Let's see where they're at with Super Prestige. Thomas Gloag has jumped 17 spots to number 1 here at the end of July. Has Thomas Gloag just won the Tour de France? How has he picked up that many points? I'm guessing it going back. Let's check. Did Thomas Gloag just win the Tour de France? Has. Thomas Gloag has just won the Tour de France. 25-year-old United Kingdom rider with an 82 mountain, 80 hills, just 72 stamina. How in the world? Those are good ratings. But those aren't win the Tour de France ratings. Those are Gegenhardt winning the Giro in a COVID year with a decimated field that saw a bunch of the top contenders out of the race partway through the race, and then Gegenhardt comes away with the win. Gegenhardt's that kind of rider, right? He's a low 80s kind of mountain. third option on your team, which third option on your team, because you're one of those top 2-3 teams, is a first option on most of the other teams, sure, but is third option on your team. So there's 6, 7, 8 riders in the field that are better or stronger, and Gegenhardt naturally can finish in the top 10. Thomas Gloag, I would think, is somebody who can finish in the top 10. But coming away with a victory, dang. And look who finished in second. A 22-year-old 80 mountain Roshk? What? Let's see. What would that... He's Slovenian. It's Jan. I got that much. Maybe Roik? Sure. That's what I'll go with. Tell me if I butchered that one. Vlasov, Shampison. Vlasov's an 83 with 75 stamina. Not significantly better than Gloag, but certainly better than Gloag. Doesn't have the support team. Could be a factor. Could have been fitness build-up. Champison's another one who you wouldn't think to be a top 10. Champison's somebody who's going to go out and win stages, maybe compete for a KOM, but to finish a top 5. Johannesson, a little surprising, doesn't do better with the 81 and 75 stamina and sprint capability. This is somebody who can steal seconds here and there, but isn't an elite climber, just a very good climber. So I suppose that's what you're looking at. And Carapaz should have done better. But apparently, and here's Lenny Martinez from my career mode team with 81s. Enrique Mas, that's another one that's very disappointing. Jumbo Visma's top rider is Enrique Mas at this, and absolutely is stronger. He's got better flat, equal mountain, better hills, better stamina, and he's all the way down outside of the top 10. Surprising Skiomos is only a 77 mountain. His practice, his training through Trek has not been of the climbing variety, and he's weaker than he would be. Lopez, here's a perfect example of how in the world has Lotto Soudal screwed this up. You've got Lopez with an 82 mountain and 79 stamina plus the equivalent hills. Now his flat rating is not very good. Time trialing is also not good. Is that a factor? Let's go back and look at that. I'm not going to go any deeper than this. I see how Thomas Gloag has won this, though. None of the elite climbers are here. 82 is the best we are seeing. But Lotto Soudal with 2 guys with 82 mountain ratings and very good stamina. And Carapaz, how Carapaz has not won this, I don't understand. A team with a support rider as good as Lopez. You got a Venipol down here too. What a field. But again, there's no Pogacar. There's no Vingegaard guys who are 83, 84 mountain. 82 is the best you're going to find. And Ineos, of course, always brings a team full of strong climbers. So, okay, I get it. Time trial just 74. So, while it's surprising, I suppose it does make a certain amount of sense that he is definitely one of the top climbers here, and he's on one of the strongest teams. But Jumbo and Lotto Soudal should be very disappointed in themselves for not getting at least on the podium. Schechter, by the way, is our top-rated rider in the Super Prestige at 25th in the individual rankings with 750 points. Wang Huai Dai is in 54th with 500 points. Locke just inside the top 100, and Lieberman has not done much, but he has moved up 111 spots now with 271 points after that successful venture in San Sebastian. As a team, we are the highest scoring World Tour points for any non-World Tour team. In Continental, we are into the top 15, but again, that has not been my area of focus. Super Prestige has, and we find ourselves in 15th, second overall in Continental Pro. Still a similar state to where we had been, but we are coming up with the points. I think we need to stay top 2 in this department to once again next season have free reign for those classics. Well, let's get in and find out what's going on with the sponsor. So remember, this is a sponsor that we had to manipulate in our favor in order to get it out of Hong Kong, as it should have been Tunisia. So I would happily switch to an actual Asian sponsor if one comes up. Otherwise, we've already done the dirty work on making this one our own and making it an Asian sponsor. So we will obviously stick with it if we have a non-Asian entry. But for now, we are going to go from 113 up to 140,000. That is enough of an increase to have a pretty substantial impact on our finances in the coming year. And that's a 20% increase on where we're at. And I have an interesting predicament, one that I actually like having. I have choices. All right, well, first things first. I was just stating that we have a sponsor that was manipulated. It's not the real sponsor that we should have. It didn't fall in. 1 year later, here we are with not one, but 2 Asian sponsors. Even if it's the Middle East, it is distinctly an Asian sponsor, and it falls into our pool of nations. So we are going to be moving to one of these 2. So eliminate Hong Kong Air. They're out. They don't even exist anyway. So the interesting predicament, Qatar Airways or Qatar Steel? Ultimately, you're looking at the same thing. The important territories, it's identical for both. They both want a Qatari rider. The other one does want Kazakhstan as well, but I really don't think that is going to influence my decision in any way, shape, or form. Now, story-driven, narrative-wise, Qatar Airways is an easy choice because so far we have a theme. We've had 2 airlines already. This would move us to a 3rd and larger airline. It makes sense narratively. I don't care what the jerseys look like. They are what they are. You just deal with that and you move on. The finances, though, should be the most important thing that we are looking at, though we obviously have a nod in one direction narratively. But let's look at the finances. Now, up front, 2028 budget, Steel adds a +2 to what we were expecting for the year, bumping us to 142K. The Airways drops by 7. I mean, that's a $9,000 difference between the 2. So that's obviously a nod for Steel. But then there's the Max. And as long as it took us to get an Asian sponsor offer, this is the first one. This is the first one in the entire playthrough. As long as it took us to get there, that is something to keep in mind. The Max easily could come into play. We could be reaching the Max once again. And the Max is pretty strongly in favor. I mean, we're looking at $50,000 to $60,000 difference towards Airways with a much higher Max, which means the gain each season is going to be quite a bit more. I mean, you're looking at an extra 10 to 15,000 yearly on that, because it takes, roughly 4 years to max out. So if it takes 4 years to max out and your maximum is 200K away versus 130K away, that's a +70 difference spread out over 4 years. We're talking, we're talking closer to 20,000 per year, which means Airways could exceed Steel after just 1 year, and it'll pull away in the second year. And already the 133 is a pretty good bump from where we're at right now. I mean, that's a $20,000 increase from where we're at currently. So that's still a healthy bump. Now, of course, we need to try to re-sign Schechter this year, our most expensive rider. That's another thing to keep in mind. But I think the max outweighs the short-term sacrifice of the 2028 budget when you throw in the narrative part. That is ultimately why I'm deciding to go with Qatar Airways. Let me know in the comments below if you would have made the same decision, or should I have gone for the immediacy of a little bit more cash in pocket. But here we go. We are moving on to Qatar Airways for next season. Talk about a difference in reality versus the info. A sprained wrist is what Brandon No has suffered from. That is all. And yet, he is going to be out for a month with a sprained wrist. That should be a matter of a handful of days at worst, as you can put a soft brace on and get back to riding pretty dang quick in real life. But Brandon No will miss out on a couple races. We actually have a pretty light calendar in the future. We have the Bemmer Classics, and then we have the Bretagne Classic coming up. So we do have a couple of World Tour Classics that, as I was saying previously, I think last episode, we're looking at classics that are of a lower level but are World Tour, which means they're not going to have the best riders. Gives us a better chance, as we've already seen with Sebastion. Without the best riders around, we managed to squeeze off a podium for the first time, which is awesome. Final stage of Tour of Utah, and disaster is striking. The breakaway got bigger than it should, and the team in the lead is not interested in chasing it, and they are allowing it to go way too far out. I'm already under the impression that the breakaway is going to hang on, as there's just 60k to go and one big climb. So then I put Kang on the front of the field, and the team that's in the lead, that's supposed to be leading at the front, instantly they were not interested in doing any further work. But as I get him off the front, or not off the front, as I put him on the front to lead the group, they instantly just sat up and gave him a gap. So then the gap out front gets even worse, as there's nobody there. So I put one guy up front and nothing happens. This is not how this kind of stage is supposed to go. We are not in the lead. We are not in that strong of a position. And now we're finding ourselves getting screwed a bit by the AI. And right now there is no proper gain happening as we are going forward. And you see how I accelerate, and then they just kind of sit back off of him and hang back, and the gap starts to open. So when we hit the climb, we're going to have to be pretty aggressive and go forward with our guys. 36k to go now to cut into that gap, hopefully enough so that nobody in that breakaway is going to have the sort of gap they need to hang on and claim the overall. Liss, you can see, has already been dropped. Poor flat rating, 10 minutes down overall. But let's pause for a second, see where these 20 riders are and how much of a gap we need. But before we figure that out, our top two guys, Ganai is 210 down and Alpasov is 250. So anything inside 3 minutes is going to be the worrying state for us. So let's get back up there and let's see who's inside 3 minutes, if anyone. None of them. None of them are inside 3 minutes. Well, I guess they wouldn't be, but let me go back and do the other math. 5:49 is the gap. We can obviously pull back a good minute of that, but that's 5 minutes. If they gain 5 minutes and we're at 3 minutes, 8 minutes or less is going to be worrying. Anybody at 8 minutes or less? 9:48. 8:22. So there is one rider who is right on that edge, which means Kang doesn't actually need to be working too hard. But the only thing is it does mean that this breakaway is very likely to win the stage today. However, our ride is for the GC now. I was hoping for stage and GC scenarios, but we're going to have to settle for the GC scenario on this one with our team. So I don't want King to be working too hard here, as we can now kind of focus in on the climb to come. 11.6k here for Empire Pass, 8% average gradient. That's not bad. And at just over, usually 10k is about where you kind of want to limit how hard you push on a climb. So we don't have to wait long. But we do need to King. Let's get you on the heels of a leader like Alpasov, and then let's take these guys. Let's make sure we start holding position within 84. 12k to go on the climb here at the base. Once we get that inside 10, we're going to take control. You know what, let's make it 9 because we're not that strong of a team. So we'll wait just a little bit longer before we take control. Especially while there is somebody pushing. Let's let them push. Let them do the work. They're still pushing. Keeping an eye on it, close eye on it. We're holding our position well. Down to 8.5k. I don't think they're pushing as hard anymore, so we may want to get on with it. No, somebody else took over at the front, so that's good. 7k. Okay, that and those riders at the front are looking pretty tired, but so are we. 6.7. We're almost through the steepest sector though, and it's going to ease off. 4.5 minutes now. We're not going to last long if we do something. Let's just hang on. But let's also play this a little bit smarter. We want to gel up for a handful of guys here. We're going to be down to 3 riders in just a moment. Kang is done. On to auto. Yamamoto is done. He's going to go down to auto. That is Alpasov he was protecting. That's one of those top 2 guys. So we want Locke is protecting Gunai. So Hamad protect Alpasov and gel up. 4k to go on the climb. And we are starting to pull back some of the breakaway riders, but the others are still ahead. Down to 33 in the peloton, and I'm down to 3 riders with 3k. Let's go another 500-600 meters, and then we're gonna, yeah, here comes the acceleration of a couple contenders. So now is the time to respond. I think this was a smart move to wait. You can see just how weak we are. We'll set about an 87. We want Gunai, who's 6th overall, following Alpasov, who's 9th overall, following Hamad, who's well out of contention. Okay, field is definitely splitting, but we are definitely not at our strongest as Hamad hangs on, keeps these guys close. And he's going to get us over the climb itself and keep everyone here. There's Garzone. And there you go. We have made it. Gunai, Alpasov, barely, with Hamad leading them out over the top. Let's not allow any recovery. There's only 2 slight uphill sections. We got 4 more riders just ahead of us that can be brought in. And wow, look at that amount of recovery already. Hamad within 80 has gained separation, but there's very much a field that's still here. Nice acceleration over the top of that one. Now just the finish uphill section is all that is left. I would continue pushing on with Hamad and try to go for the stage, except that there's still a number of riders out in front of him. They're about to claim the victory with 2k to go here. Gunai way too late for the... Let's start the sprint here. Will Barta has taken the win ahead of Nicholas Cox. And Merhawi Kudos. Ahmad sprinting. 1K to go. Alpasov sprinting. And Ganai sprinting. There's not going to be any separation. We are on same time. It's a sizable group, but no time losses, so we are going to keep our top 10 positions in the GC. Not worth as many points as what we just got with Sebastian, but certainly worth a decent amount of points here as Ganai and Alpasov both finish in that primary group. And no significant time losses to the breakaway secures the double top 10 position in this race, which is certainly an achievement for our team. We'll take it. That is going to do it for this episode, though. I'm Decathlon Gamer. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Have a good one. Be safe out there, and bye for now.